It's going to be difficult, but Madrimov is bang up for it.
As well, but I'm definitely.
You ain't better than me in nothing.
Darts.
And talking, that's it.
Talking?
You talk a good game. You ain't better than me in nothing.
Darts.
Nothing. Today.
You're very nervous today. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I've been here.
Your energy's all off.
I've been here.
I'm worried about you on Saturday.
And I got your money in my pocket.
Exactly.
Take it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You said I owe you, take it.
What's the name?
Exactly. Yeah, and guess what?
He's going to take it.
And guess what?
He's going to take it.
They ain't even going to help.
He's going to take it. Should have been a draw.
Never. I don't think you can hoop.
What?
I
definitely can't hoop. Well, I can hoop. I'm probably still better than you at hooping as well. But I'm definitely
You ain't better than me in nothing.
Darts.
And talking, that's it.
Talking?
You talk a good game. You ain't
Darts.
better than me in nothing.
Darts.
Nothing.
Darts.
Nothing.
Darts.
Today.
You're very nervous today. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I've been here.
Your energy's all off.
I've been here.
I'm worried about you on Saturday.
Last time I
don't think you're taking this fight right.
I'm 3-0 against you, sir.
Boxing pros have warned Terence Crawford not to fight Israil Madrimov. Promoter Eddie Hearn envisions a knockout triumph for Madrimov when he faces Crawford in their upcoming bout. Hearn believes this bout is the catalyst that will propel Madrimov to stardom, envisioning him as a future superstar, following a victory over Crawford in what he sees as a pivotal match.
He's more dangerous at 36 than he was at 30, 26, 30. Yeah, I think that Terence is getting on a bit, but he's lived a very, very good life as a fighter. Do you know what I mean? Hasn't ballooned between fights, doesn't go out and party, doesn't get himself distracted. So we're well aware of the challenge. But sometimes I have to talk up our challenger, but sometimes you do it without actually seeing a way that they could win or they could neglect the bit. But Madrimov, one, he has great ring IQ. His movement is very, very good. He's a good body puncher. He punches very hard upstairs as well. He's got a great chin. He's a solid guy. Everyone's going to struggle against the movement of Terence Crawford, the ring IQ. But this guy's got to get himself into this fight. I think sometimes the hardest part of this kind of fight, when you lack a bit of experience at this level, is those opening 3 or 4 rounds. You have to be competitive and you have to get into the fight. And if you don't, then you're in big trouble. Because you've seen Crawford so many times, whether it's against Avanesian, whether it's against Kell Brook, Amir Khan, those first 3, he just goes through the gears so effortlessly. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to find a way to negate that. It's going to be difficult, but Madrimov is bang up for it.
Eddie Hearn on X. He's ready to knock out Terence Crawford in Los Angeles. This is the fight that turns Israil Madrimov into a superstar. If Madrimov, at 29, manages to overcome Crawford, it would send ripples through the boxing world. Most fans consider Crawford invincible, with some even speculating that he might soon step up to super middleweight to challenge Canelo Alvarez in early 2025. Madrimov boasts both the power and flair to trouble Crawford, but he falls short in stringing together the combinations necessary to outshine the Nebraska native. Relying on isolated strikes won't be enough to best Crawford. If Madrimov had the knockout power of legendary punchers like Julian Jackson, his one-punch ability would change the game entirely, but he's not built like that. This bout will serve as a crucial litmus test to gauge if Crawford can effectively transition to 168 pounds for the challenge ahead. Should Crawford overcome both Madrimov and Canelo, His Excellency Turki Alalshik will need to create a new challenge for him. The next step could see Crawford advancing to the 175-pound division to face formidable opponents like Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, and David Benavidez. Returning to the 154-pound division would seem futile if Crawford emerges triumphant against Canelo. Of course, they have plans and they're thinking ahead of what's going to happen next. I have plans too. My plans are to get the victory on August 3rd, said Madrimov to Fight Hype, discussing his thoughts on Crawford. Madrimov is irked by Crawford's apparent disregard for him as he sets his sights on a bout with Canelo. However, this shift in focus only reassures Madrimov of Crawford's confidence in his own victory. Now, it's up to Madrimov to demonstrate to the 36-year-old Crawford that he's made a grave mistake in underestimating him. I'm concentrating on this fight against Terence Crawford. I don't think about anything else. I'm there to win the fight, and after the fight, we can talk about everything else, said Madrimov. His helping out Terence Crawford may help him, but maybe not. We'll see in the ring, said Madrimov about Andre Ward assisting Crawford with sparring. He added, if it's something that motivates him and helps him, good for him. Bivol is helping me prepare for the fight. Crawford and Andre Ward sparred, but it's not a huge deal because Crawford's technique isn't similar to Madrimov. Madramov's, and he didn't look very fit in the videos of them working out. We choose our path. His path was in professional boxing, and my path was in amateur boxing, said Madrimov, explaining why he only has 11 fights as a pro compared to Crawford's 40. He added, "So I went on to win multiple world titles as an amateur." Madrimov's extensive amateur career probably gives him an edge over Crawford's professional experience.
In Riyadh.
And look at this, Madrimov! They're gonna stop it! The performance of a lifetime!
To take your first defense against Terence Crawford shows you what he's all about.
While Madrimov has squared off against numerous top-tier opponents in the amateur ranks, Crawford's pro resume includes several bouts with lesser-known fighters, both at the beginning and later in his career. Madrimov said, "Once we got into the pros, we went the hard way. We chose the hard path, with all 10 fights being tough fights. 6 of them were title eliminators, and all of them were tough. So, stiff competition. Yes, he's more known, but that's my opportunity." Former WBC interim junior middleweight champ Brian Mendoza is taking a stand against the prevailing skepticism from oddsmakers and fans who doubt Israil Madrimov's ability to defend his WBA junior middleweight title against Terence Crawford. Mendoza believes it's a miscalculation to think Crawford will easily handle Madrimov. Stepping up to 154 pounds and facing a formidable puncher like Madrimov could pose a significant challenge for Crawford. With no experience at this weight class and unaccustomed to the sheer power of Madrimov's punches, Crawford might find himself in a difficult position. The oddsmakers are probably still leaning on Crawford's performance from his last bout with Errol Spence Jr. a year back, expecting a similar outcome against Madrimov. However, Madrimov lacks Spence's renown and hasn't accomplished as much in his career. It's common for fans and the media to overlook fighters who aren't frequently in the spotlight. If Crawford hasn't lost a step since his last bout a year ago, and his power translates well to the 154-pound division, he could emerge victorious. On the other hand, Madrimov remains a mystery to American audiences, as his bouts haven't been featured on network TV in the US. Mendoza expressed that while he does believe in Crawford's capabilities, he feels Madrimov is being underestimated. He pointed out that the odds are surprisingly high and shouldn't be so skewed. Mendoza emphasized that Madrimov is a very strong fighter who is determined to defend his title, which Crawford will have to earn by taking it from him.
I do think so, but Madrimov, I think they're writing him off a little too much. I think the odds are, like something crazy. I don't think the odds should be that far out there. Madrimov is a very strong fighter. He's coming forward. He's gonna come, to defend his title. He already has that title. That's something Crawford's really gonna have to take from him.
Madrimov's formidable punching power, dynamic striking, youthful energy, and eccentric style will present a formidable challenge for Crawford. If Crawford expects to face a fighter like Errol Spence, he might be in for a rude awakening on August 3rd. Mendoza said that while he leans towards Crawford, he doesn't understand why people are counting out Madrimov to such an extent. He believes the fight will be very difficult, drawing a comparison to the challenge posed by the Spence fight.
So I do lean towards Crawford, but I don't see why people are counting Madrimov out to that extent, because I think it's going to be very different from the Spence fight.
Many dismiss Madrimov simply because he's flown under the radar for most fans.
If you have the right kryptonite.
Madrimov can beat Crawford with his power and his relentlessness,
who haven't witnessed his fights firsthand. He also hasn't yet squared off against opponents of Crawford's caliber, leaving him relatively unknown in the eyes of many. They've seen Crawford in action numerous times before and have always been impressed by his performance. However, Crawford has yet to face someone with Madrimov's skill level, which could pose a challenge, especially considering Crawford's age and a 13-month layoff. Mendoza commented on Madrimov's tendency to drop his lead hand during fights, stating that it's a habit he has developed over the years. He noted that despite Madrimov's intentions to take the fight seriously and keep his hand up, breaking such a long-standing habit is challenging.
It's a habit that you created, so even though you can say like, all right, I'm going to take it serious, I'm not going to drop my hand, it's a habit you've been creating for years.
Madrimov's tendency to keep his lead hand low might not be his main concern when facing Crawford. His bigger challenge could come from Crawford's agility, sharp jab, and pinpoint accuracy. He's elusive and tough to land a punch on while he's in motion, and only when Crawford plants his feet does he become vulnerable. Crawford frequently engages his opponents within striking range by clinching them, and then using his wrestling skills to gain the upper hand. Fighters who aren't prepared for Crawford's grappling tactics will find themselves at a distinct disadvantage. Mendoza expressed hope that Madrimov is addressing his tendency to drop his lead hand, recognizing the high caliber of his current opponent and showing respect for Crawford's skills. He emphasized that he fully expects Madrimov to be working on correcting this habit, as it is something Crawford would quickly exploit.
For years, so those are things hopefully he's working on, because I guarantee you he knows the caliber of fighter that he's in there with right now, and that he's respecting it. So I would fully hope, that he's working on stuff like that, because that's something Crawford will take advantage of immediately.
Madrimov typically keeps his lead hand low while maneuvering on the outside. Once he's in striking distance, he raises his hands and employs clever angles to dodge incoming blows. His footwork mirrors Lomachenko's, making him a challenging target to hit. Madrimov's dynamic mobility, raw power, youthful energy, and precision shots might pose significant challenges for Crawford. This matchup could serve as a stark reality check for Crawford as he faces an opponent he might struggle to overcome. On Saturday, we'll soon discover how Crawford handles the explosive force of the division's hardest hitter. Madrimov may not have the quickest hands, but his GGG-like power turns him into a daunting challenge for anyone in his path. Many are not optimistic about Crawford's chances in this matchup. He's battling numerous challenges, with his advancing age being a significant one.
And tell us about this moment at 36, opposed to this moment at 26, 30 years old. Like, you're 36 now. What's this moment like now? Don't look at like you feel like you're staring up.
I was about to say that. He's staring you down, man. Oh my God.
I'm listening. But you know it is fight time, so I'm listening.
So, obviously, the energy is the same, but, like, kind of walk us through that.
No. Like I always say, everything happened for a reason.
More dangerous at 26 or more dangerous at 36?
I'm more dangerous at 36 than 26.
As he approaches 37 this September, the physical toll of basking in the limelight after his monumental victory over Errol Spence in July 2023 has become evident. Crawford can't afford to face Madrimov head-on and engage in a brawl as he did with his recent 147-pound opponents without risking significant damage. The clinching and grappling techniques Crawford relies on to neutralize power punchers are unlikely to be effective against Madrimov, who is well-versed in handling fighters with those tactics. Crawford's annual emergence from his den could come back to haunt him this Saturday night. The Omaha, Nebraska fighter may find that stepping into the 154-pound weight class, one he's not physically built for, could be his undoing. Crawford's situation is very different from that of smaller, older, and past their prime opponents in the lower weight classes. When Crawford experiences Madrimov's GGG-like power firsthand, he might be in for a jarring surprise. This revelation could make him question whether choosing this fighter after 13 months off was a grave error. Crawford has faced punches across various weight classes before, but none compared to the impact Madrimov will deliver. This will force Crawford to alter his approach drastically, shifting to a more defensive strategy. He'll be aiming for a gritty victory, relying on jabs, constant movement, and clinching to secure a win through a decision.
At this point, I just think that Israil is very disciplined. He's a solid 154-pounder, younger, and he has similar tools as Terence Crawford. Maybe he has not been at the stage, but we're preparing him mentally to be ready, because it's not going to be an easy task.
That will not hold up against Madrimov, who over his lengthy amateur career frequently faced off against those cunning, hit-and-not-get-hit point-scoring fighters. Madrimov has spent his entire career in the 154-pound division. With a physique and punching power comparable to Canelo Alvarez, he might demonstrate that Crawford's success in the lighter weight classes, 135, 140, and 147, will have no bearing on this matchup. Promoter Eddie Hearn envisions a knockout win for Madrimov against Crawford, a victory that could catapult the Uzbek fighter to stardom. This is Madrimov's Cinderella moment. Regrettably for Crawford, he's the seasoned lion that Madrimov must conquer to claim his place in the limelight. All the meticulous planning by Crawford, his team, and His Excellency Turki Alalshik, who are eagerly discussing potential Canelo matchups or other high-profile fights, could vanish in an instant on Saturday night under Madrimov's powerful fists. Crawford might be grounded in this fight and come to understand that he hasn't been dedicating himself to his career as he should. His once-a-year schedule has treated his career like a part-time job. This is how legendary fighters from the past, such as Sugar Ray Leonard and Oscar de la Hoya, unraveled. Toward the end of their careers, they fought infrequently, often taking long breaks between bouts, chasing after big paydays, and ultimately facing defeat. While many fans are confident that Crawford will once again secure an effortless victory, many don't share that view this time. Unlike the opponents Crawford has consistently outclassed over his 16-year career, Madrimov is a genuine challenge.
It's very difficult, because he was a 140-pounder, and he was great. He showed how great of a fighter he was at 140. He moved to 47 and did a lot of damage there. It's interesting to see how he's going to react at 154 against a solid 154-pounder, I know a lot of people don't know who Israil Madrimov is, but you know, it's understandable. And I totally understand the people that say, oh, well, it's an easy fight for Crawford. You know, I would probably be the same. I'll probably be in the same position as all these people if I didn't know who Israil Madrimov is. But I know who he is. I know his pedigree. As an amateur, yes.
As Crawford gears up to move up a weight class for this anticipated clash with Madrimov, he takes the opportunity to offer his thoughts to the boxing press. Crawford delves into his views on the imminent match, his strategic vision for the future, and his guidance to Shakur Stevenson on how to brush off negative critiques. When questioned about his strategy to counter Madrimov's style, Crawford replied that he intended to address every facet of Madrimov's game. He recognized Madrimov as a seasoned amateur with significant experience, even with just 11 professional bouts under his belt. Crawford pointed out that Madrimov's world champion status was well-earned and that he commanded the same respect as any other adversary. He underscored that each opponent brings their own unique challenges to the ring.
Against him? Well, just everything about him. You know, he's a decorated amateur. He got a lot of experience in the amateur field. He may only have 11 fights, but he's 11 fights in the world champion for a reason. So he's strong. I gotta respect everything about him. You know, just like I gotta respect everything about any other opponent that I've been in the ring with, because everybody brings something different.
Crawford recently reflected on his sparring session with Andre Ward, calling it an exceptional experience. He was grateful for the chance to step into the ring with Ward, describing it as dope to have shared that moment with such a renowned fighter. Crawford found the session incredibly enriching, marking it as a memorable highlight he will treasure forever.
It was dope. It was dope. It was dope. I appreciate Dre for even, you know, giving me the opportunity to step in the ring with him. You know, I can say that, you know, I sparred Andre Ward. That's dope, you know. So, you know, it was good sparring. It was very good experience for me.
When questioned about the potential technical challenges posed by Madrimov, Crawford admitted that it could indeed be a demanding bout. He pointed out that every fight holds the possibility of being his most challenging yet, and he would only truly understand the difficulty once he was in the ring. Crawford recognized Madrimov as a formidable adversary, stressing that he was approaching the match with full seriousness and had rigorously prepared, leaving no room for shortcuts.
It could be. You know, like I said, in the past, every fight could be my toughest fight. I don't know until I step foot in the ring. You know, Israil is definitely a tough opponent. We definitely not taking him lightly. We never, you know, took any shortcuts on this fight.
The upcoming showdown between Terence Crawford and Israil Madrimov is being orchestrated by Turki Alalshik, a titan in the boxing world. As the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, Alalshik has played a pivotal role in several high-profile boxing events over the past year and a half, including the much-anticipated clash between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. At 42 years old, he has expressed confidence that Crawford will deliver a historic performance against Madrimov. Nonetheless, Eddie Hearn, a prominent boxing promoter, holds a more cautious view. The chairman of Matchroom Boxing believes that the WBA champion might just pull off a stunning upset against one of the sport's leading pound-for-pound contenders. In a recent interview, Hearn talked about the forthcoming 154-pound title bout and stated, "Probably the best card American boxing has ever seen, August 3rd in Los Angeles." Israil Madrimov is being massively overlooked. I actually sent His Excellency a message yesterday, and I said, "I'm really sorry to ruin your plans for Terence Crawford, because all people are talking about is what happens next. Canelo Alvarez, Boots Ennis." Hearn further added, "But Israil Madrimov, I think, is the toughest test so far of Crawford's career up at 154. He's a huge light middleweight super welterweight, punches very, very hard, has tremendous movement, good boxing IQ, and outstanding amateur pedigree as well. This is a real fight." Meanwhile, Ennis is widely recognized as one of boxing's premier talents. After his recent IBF title defense against David Avanesian, Turki Alalshik shared this on X. "I just reached out to boxer Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn to congratulate him on his win, and I'd love to see Ennis in a fight with Crawford at 154 pounds soon." Israil Madrimov, the reigning WBA junior middleweight champion with an impressive record of 10-0-1-7, confidently claims that his extensive amateur experience has prepared him well for his next title defense. Madrimov is set to face the undefeated Terence Crawford, a former two-division undisputed champion with a perfect record of 40-0-31. Madrimov Madrimov highlights that his amateur career includes over 300 bouts, with a significant portion of those taking place in international tournaments. Madrimov said, "Experience-wise, yes, I have 10 professional fights, but it's a high quality. All 10 were WBA fights. All 10 were 12-rounders against stiff opposition. I have more than 200 international amateur fights, so overall, over 300 amateur fights. I have experience fighting everyone around the world. The ring will show everything. On August 3rd, you will see everything." Southpaw Crawford boasts one of the most illustrious careers in recent boxing history. A decade ago, he journeyed to Glasgow, Scotland, to dethrone Ricky Burns as the WBO lightweight champion, securing his first world title. After 2 successful defenses, Crawford ascended to the junior welterweight division, where he unified the WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF titles. He repeated this feat last year in the welterweight division. Across 18 world title fights spanning 3 weight classes, Crawford has emerged victorious in each, with 15 of those wins coming by knockout. Despite Crawford's impeccable record, Madrimov says he sees openings that Crawford should seize. Madrimov said, "We have some things we've been watching. We're not going to talk about it right now. With a lot of fighters, they're losing before they even step in the ring. They're already kind of on the downside of their careers. With me, I'm mentally strong." In addition to Madrimov's WBA title, the Crawford fight will also see the vacant WBO interim title up for grabs. Madrimov added, "I know what I'm capable of. I know this fight is important for me, my family, for my legacy, and the whole country. I've got a whole country on my back supporting me. I'm definitely coming out there to do everything within my power to get the victory. My only thoughts are positive thoughts. I know what I'm capable of." Everyone is talking about this fight, and everyone is looking forward to the August 3rd fight. With anticipation mounting for this crucial match, Crawford keeps his attention firmly on Madrimov, dismissing any speculation about a potential future bout with Saul Canelo Alvarez. Crawford stated, "I'm not thinking about Canelo or any other boxer right now. All my thoughts are on August 3rd and the fight against Israil Madrimov. That's the only thing on my mind." Despite his impressive track record, Madrimov seems to be caught up in a heated rivalry with the unbeaten Virgil Ortiz Jr. While preparing for his bout against Bud Crawford, Madrimov was training and sparring with Ortiz Jr. under Robert Garcia's guidance. The animosity began when Madrimov, in an interview with Snow Queen LA, made comments about the sparring session and Ortiz that did not sit well with the American boxer. Speaking about Ortiz Jr. during the interview, Madrimov called him a strong guy, good guy, and said that their sparring session had been a good experience for him. In one word, he is a normal boxer, he said, expanding on his initial thoughts. In response to the question of whether Ortiz Jr. had left a lasting impression on him, Madrimov highlighted Ortiz Jr.'s notable advantages, particularly his heavy punch volume and his unrelenting pressure on opponents. He later added, "Our game plan was to play with him like Soviet amateur style." Despite this relatively polite response, Ortiz Jr. seems to have taken offense at some of the things Madrimov said. Turning to X, the Dallas, Texas native wrote, "Our game plan was to play with him. Sounds like an excuse like, I wasn't really trying when this normal boxer put it on his ass." Also, adding that Madrimov didn't even show up for their sparring session the next Monday without informing them. Virgil Ortiz Jr. clearly isn't wowed by the 29-year-old fighter, but British promoters anticipate that Madrimov might derail Saudi Arabia's hopes for Terence Crawford. This upcoming match will be Crawford's first venture into the welterweight division, and His Excellency Turki Alalshik has high expectations for Crawford's debut performance. What Crawford will bring to his next fight against Madrimov is anyone's guess. Having spent the last year basking in the glory of his victory over Errol Spence, and now stepping into an unfamiliar weight class, Crawford's performance remains a mystery. Furthermore, Crawford, who is nearing 37, has a track record that pales in comparison to other multi-division world champions, resembling Adrian Broner's achievements. Much like Broner, Crawford has been relatively inactive over the past few years, engaging in only a few fights against opponents such as David Avanesian and the already faded Sean Porter and Errol Spence. Easy work. He f***ed him up. He was probably around 180, said trainer Robert Garcia to ES News, talking about Israil Madrimov during his sparring with Virgil Ortiz Jr. "That's the real reason why I say Crawford is going to get him. I've been in the ring with him. Crawford is going to get him in less than 7, said Virgil Ortiz, predicting an early knockout for Terence Crawford over Madrimov. It seems there's a bit of friction between Ortiz and the unbeaten Madrimov after Madrimov's recent interview comments. Virgil is challenging Madrimov's assertion that he was just playing around with Ortiz during their sparring. Virgil Jr. is skeptical of these claims and stands by his performance, insisting that he dominated their training session. His coach, Robert Garcia, backs this up, claiming Virgil came out on top, though it's debatable if a sparring match can really be considered a win. Do you even get a ribbon for excelling in sparring? Virgil Jr.'s response to his sparring sessions may come across as somewhat minor, but it's evident that he's searching for ways to generate excitement for his forthcoming match against WBC interim junior middleweight champion Serhiy Bohachuk. The bout has largely slipped through the cracks, mainly due to a lackluster promotion. Despite significant marketing efforts, fan interest has been tepid. Virgil Jr. has been relatively inactive lately, primarily due to ongoing health concerns. His recent lack of high-profile opponents has also prevented him from making a significant impact on the fan base. For Virgil Ortiz Jr., sparring with Israil Madrimov might be the perfect way to stir up some excitement, even if it's a bit unconventional. We can only hope Virgil doesn't make a habit of this by using sparring stories to boost his profile and become the next training camp sensation. That's a fight that can happen too, said Robert Garcia, reacting to Eli Sechbach saying that Virgil Ortiz can knock out Crawford. Virgil becomes the interim champion, and Crawford is the WBA champion. That's the next fight that could happen too. So we go that direction too, said Robert, wanting Virgil to fight WBC junior middleweight champion Sebastian Fundora, retired world light heavyweight champion. Antonio Tarver thinks Terence "Bud" Crawford has picked a difficult opponent for his junior middleweight debut. The 36-year-old southpaw from Omaha, Nebraska, is reportedly nearing a clash with the undisputed super middleweight champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez. If this fight materializes, it would require him to ascend 2 more weight divisions. However, Mexican icon Alvarez has so far displayed little interest in the idea. After winning the welterweight title by defeating Errol Spence Jr. in 2023, Crawford expressed a strong desire to face Canelo Alvarez, the undisputed super middleweight champion. However, Crawford has put discussions about Alvarez on hold as he prepares for his WBA title bout against Madrimov. The undefeated champion, with a flawless record of 40-0, is determined to claim the undisputed titles in the 154-pound division, beginning with Madrimov as his first challenger. During a recent media interview, Crawford also touched on the possibility of a future fight against Alvarez.
Now, in a potential Terence Crawford Boots Ennis fight, then Terence Crawford versus Canelo. Am I crazy for saying that? Or...
No, crazy. You're not crazy because that's your opinion.
Right.
You know, that's your opinion, but at the same time, you know, being where I'm at right now, I'm looking at the fight that makes the most sense, and that's not Boots. Canelo is going to bring way more to my legacy, way more to my bank account, you know, because at the end of the day, when boxing is done with, what will we have?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to have a legacy that's something that people talk about for the ages.
Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.